The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Dr. Angeli Möller. Angeli is the head of data and integrations generating insights at Roche. Angeli, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, JP. Really glad to be here.
Yeah, and we're delighted to have you. Angeli, let's start with yourself. You've got quite an interesting background and journey in technology. So could you give us an overview of that journey from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and take us up to today as the head of DIGI at Roche?
So as you say, I have had the luxury of a very diverse, interesting and challenging career that I've enjoyed every minute of. So that began with my time in research. So really in the lab as a molecular biologist. I think after the end of my PhD, which was at Cancer Research UK, I had mastered the art of pipetting. And then, of course, as I went into my postdoc, robots were introduced into the lab, and my hard-won skill set suddenly became obsolete. And through the use of robotics and also the increase in international research, I then needed to upskill in informatics and bioinformatics at that time and some basic forms of machine learning. So it is one of those where at the very early stages of my career, I had to learn how quickly technology moves and how quickly it can make your skill sets obsolete. I then moved on to a position as a senior data scientist at Thomson Reuters. That was a decision more driven by family need. So I had a young daughter, and working as a data scientist is a wonderful job that allows you to work at home. You really just need the right compute environment, the right mindset and skills, and you can accomplish so much with a flexible work-life balance. And that's one of the reasons I really enjoyed that job. And I worked then as an external for pharmaceutical companies such as Sanofi, Merck, Darmstadt, Pfizer, Roche, and Bayer Pharmaceuticals. It's funny, full circle, because one of the colleagues I worked for at Roche at the time, Martin Romacher, is now part of the DIGI team. So it's lovely the way that everything comes together. But I did work for Bayer Pharmaceuticals at the time, called Bayer in the US. And after a certain period of time, I moved internally and then held many different positions there, finishing as the head of global data assets for the pharmaceutical division. And that's quite similar to my current role at Roche. So it really was looking at how to enable data sharing across the pharmaceutical division. And I've talked about that before in an earlier podcast at Alldus, so I won't go too much into it now. I think what has then excited me about the transition to Roche is the scope is much larger. So we're still looking at sharing data across the company to drive efficiency, to drive new revenue streams. And that is such an exciting challenge because you have the diagnostics division, the pharmaceutical division. You also have then entities such as Chugai, which is a pharmaceutical company in Japan that we have a large share in, Spark Therapeutics, Foundation Medicine, and Flatiron. So it's just such a diverse healthcare organization, and that's why it can have so much impact. And the data sets that it owns are so diverse and enable you to bring so much impact to patients and to healthcare professionals when you can really unlock the power of that data.
Angeli, given your role as the head of a group which touch so many different business units, many of whom sit in various global locations, you have a good view of the landscape of investment in AI and data science across the entire Roche group. When you look at the next couple of years, what are some of the things that you're most excited about to see come to fruition, or things that you know you're going to be working on that will directly impact the various data science groups and ultimately the people at Roche? What are the things that you're looking forward to work on the most?
Yeah, thank you for the question, JP. I think the most exciting change at Roche was that we made the very bold decision to integrate our informatics teams between diagnostics and pharma. And that means we're now in a position to really start focusing on exchanging data between diagnostics and pharma. And that is something that Roche as a healthcare company is really uniquely positioned to do. If you look at the rest of the industry, it's either a company is a diagnostics company or they're a pharmaceutical company. And it's such an amazing opportunity to work at a company that is specializing in both, that is doing fantastically well in both. And maybe to bring it home to someone who doesn't work in our field, if you're a patient and you're going into a doctor's office, your journey and your needs don't start at the time when you're very ill and you need to be treated with a pharmaceutical product. Your journey starts much earlier in those early stages where you might start to develop symptoms. And even before that, when you're healthy and you don't yet have the symptoms. So, trying to really follow that patient with data and analytics through that journey where they can get diagnosed earlier, where they can then get treated earlier, or perhaps other interventions such as a change in diet or a change in exercise regime could prevent them even from developing a disease, onto making sure that then if they do need the pharmaceutical product, that we follow them in that journey to maintain their quality of life, to really be able to support them in making sure they have access to the right medicine, no matter where in the world they live or what economic status they might have, or whether they're in a city or in a rural location. I think that is a very exciting opportunity that for me, Roche is really uniquely positioned to address, and that the integration of informatics between our pharmaceutical and diagnostics division really set us up for success in that mission.
Talk to us then about your role as the head of Digi. What's the broad goal and mission for you in this role? How does that interact with the various groups day to day? And what's the end result look like?
Yeah, thank you for the question, JP. Within the Digi team, we're really working to make sure that data and technology is reusable across the entire Roche group. And so, what does that look like? It means that on the data side, we adopt something called the data mesh approach. And the data mesh approach means that we're having those data sets owned and very close to the people who generate and use them. I'll give you an example. You might have a data domain, which is in research, and it's very close to those scientists who are generating proteomic data, genomic data, metabolomic data, who are really close to that laboratory data and working with it. And we might also have a data domain that we support in the commercial team, which is really close to the field force who are generating sales data, customer interaction data, who have that close understanding of what is important to know, what decisions are important to make within the commercial team. We support across the group by then providing platforms which are self service and very easy to use. So, our integration platform, our data platform, we have our master data services, many other technologies that we provide to those teams. We also provide upskilling and training. So we have a data culture and literacy lead who is then working in teams across the company to make sure that we have both the ability to work with and use the data we're producing, but also that cultural shift to start to make decisions based on what the data is telling you, which is perhaps even more important than the technology and other data cleaning services we provide.
One question that springs to mind, just to help the audience visualize just how impactful this can be. Are there any recent examples of where you and the Digi Group as a whole generated some insights that influenced the business decision across the either the broad Roche group or any subdivision, and how that impacts us as users of Roche products in the marketplace?
Absolutely, JP. So, an example would be in trying to make sure that we're developing the right diagnostic product for underserved patients. And one of the products that we are developing with our diagnostics division is measuring gas concentrations in blood. And what we worked on together with that diagnostics team was how, in the manufacturing process, they could improve the quality and the quantity of those detection kits that they were producing, which go into intensive care units. So, if you imagine when you're in intensive care, you maybe have something like pneumonia, your doctors want to know that you've got the right level of oxygenation in your blood. And how do we provide the equipment that allows that to happen? We work together with that team to make sure that they had the data and analytics in the manufacturing team to be able to develop the best possible products to do that.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
It's often lost on people, particularly in the healthcare space, just how much AI and data science is at play when you're receiving treatment, whether that's the drug that you take or the experience that you have in an intensive care unit. And so it's always great to hear the examples like the ones that you shared of just how much insight goes into it. Are there any others that you think you would want to share that would demonstrate the impact of the Digi Group and how it's helping you guys continue to innovate?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question, JP. I would want to say it's never just the Digi group. So we're really here as enablers for the Roche group, and everything that comes together that impacts a patient or a healthcare professional is through that collaboration, through that teamwork, which is really part of Roche's core spirit. And you feel it in the culture every day when you work here. Another example that I would like to highlight is really on our customer interactions. So we have a wonderful project that is being running across all of our affiliates, so all of the markets in which we operate. And it's really focused on bringing together data around what a customer wants to see. And here in the pharmaceutical division, that customer is a healthcare professional who's making that decision around which prescription to write, which treatment to recommend. And that healthcare professional needs the data at the right time, in the right place, but doesn't want to be inundated by lots of people coming into their office, doesn't have the time to read lots of leaflets that might be sent to them or endless emails. And so, what we're using is really intelligence to understand what do they like to read at a personal level? What do they open? What do they read? What do they respond to? What did we tell them in the past to make sure that as we go back to that healthcare professional, we're really meeting them with the information that they need to make the best decision for the patients that they're seeing every single day. And so, really improving that customer experience through data and analytics has been a top priority here at Roche, and we've seen a lot of success. I myself really enjoyed the opportunity I had during the pandemic to virtually join discussions with our healthcare professionals in our UK affiliate, or last summer to go out with our team in Brazil to speak to key opinion leaders at oncology clinics and to understand what were their needs in terms of what data would help them to make the best decisions for the patients that they're seeing.
And as Roche continues to be a leader in this field, particularly when it comes to investment in the use of AI and data science, that's going to have a knock-on effect to growth talent. Roche is always in the market for the best and brightest, and competition is fierce for those people. As someone who, again, holds a very senior position there, you play a pivotal role in shaping the investment in people, and you're also involved in some of the hiring when speaking to people. So I want to get your take on what is it that you say to candidates that you're meeting about the mission, the opportunity, the environment at Roche that gets them excited enough to join you guys over some of the other great companies trying to hire?
Yeah, thank you, JP. It's actually a funny day to ask me that question because I was interviewing all last week and even this morning. And so I get to reflect on the conversations I was just having this morning with the candidates that I was talking to. So I have to say that the candidates that I am normally interviewing are senior candidates. So they're looking for leadership positions in our data analytics and integration space. And so it's a privilege to be able to speak to such talented candidates who bring with them a wealth of experience. And one of the questions that the candidates asked me today was, Angeli, if I take this position, and it was a director position, what would the next stages of my career look like? And I think one of the wonderful things about the positions that we offer in Roche in the data and analytics space is that actually there was a whole range of future careers that can come out of the stepping stone of growing your career in Roche or being in the DIGI team or being in one of our other data and analytics teams. And so, for example, we really give candidates a broad range of experiences. As I described, I've been out in the countries, I've been out talking to customers, I've been in our manufacturing facilities. And I absolutely love that because you get to see all of the robots in action. You get to see that live data streaming and analytics. You get to see the IT OT in operation. You also get to see into the lab. How is that early research taking place? We have programs for home delivery of medication. And so one of the things that I think we really set people up for is to be able to explore a range of different opportunities because the day-to-day work that you will have at Roche and the day-to-day business problems that you will come into contact with are just so very diverse. I think the other things that people will tell you who have been at Roche for a while, and I've only been here 2 years, but which I really see in the colleagues around me, is the opportunity to move from department to department. So that's something that is very much encouraged in Roche. And as I said, Digi is a team that has a group perspective, but we also have a lot of fantastic engineering and data science and informatics teams that are then focused on one area of our business. So primarily focused on manufacturing, for instance, or primarily focused on research. And there's a good opportunity to move around the company in these different teams as you're looking to progress your career. And I think that's one of the wonders of having such a large and diverse company. Your next career step doesn't need to be outside the company, but there's enough opportunity and diversity within the company that you can easily find the next exciting step within the company.
I'm so glad I asked that question because it's even helped me understand just how much is going on and will continue to at Roche. Final question from me then, Angeli. I want to bring it back to something that you referenced in your introduction, where you were forced in some respects to make a pivot in your background to change with the times within the market. And working within data science, particularly in the life sciences space, there's always things that will happen that will advance the field, but may have a knock-on effect to the profession. So when you look at the various positions and specializations and skill sets that exist right now, if you were speaking to a class of seniors who were looking to make the switch from academic into industry or just starting out, what would be some of the things that you would recommend or advise them on, whether it be types of positions that you see becoming more and more popular, more and more required, or just more broadly how that they can stay current and make sure that they have skill sets that are in need?
Yeah, thank you for the question, JP. And it's not even a hypothetical question for me because I was recently speaking at a series of schools in the UK to advise girls who are interested in going into STEM subjects. And I have also spent quite a lot of time teaching at the university here in Berlin, where I live, before I entered industry. And I always give the same advice, which is really think about what you love. First of all, you're going to spend a lot of time at work. As JP, before we started recording this call, I was telling you a little bit about my busy day.
Yeah.
And you really got to love it. I can say that there are days when my day is a bit tough, where maybe I have to do a bit of work with the budget, where maybe I have to do some administrative work that I don't enjoy as much. But I still have a lot of energy to do it because I really enjoy the work I do. I really enjoy the content. I really feel very passionate about what we're doing for patients and healthcare professionals and the data and analytics involved. And so I would always advise everybody thinking about what to study or which career path to take on to really spend that time exploring what do you really love, to try not to close any doors, but keep doors and options open while you really figure out what it is that gives you joy and that you really want to spend a significant portion of your waking life on. I think beyond that, there is this point about constantly being ready to upskill. I'll give you an example from my own life. So in April last year, I joined the Science and Technology Facilities Council. So it's actually a civil service position with the UK government where I do 20 hours a year. And it is focused on physics. So astrophysics, also particle physics. And you might think, why on earth is this woman now doing something to do with physics? But what's very interesting about the work there is the data that they needed to handle. So, for instance, they have developed an observatory in South Africa, a square kilometer array, and it produces or will produce when it goes live up to 300 petabytes per year of data. And so we have to look at how do we prepare for that data? How do we handle that data? And that requires me to upskill. I needed to upskill. I'm forced to. I'm excited to be able to explore that new area. And then I can bring those skills back into Roche, back into my day job. But I think it's always important to be ready to challenge yourself in this way, to upskill in areas you feel excited about, and to not be afraid of those challenges that new technology is bringing.
Angeli, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. This was a great insight into your own background, the amazing stuff happening at Roche, and then a lot of advice and guidance that we got from you. Great to hear that an organization as large and complex as Roche has a crystal clear view of its focus of continued investment in AI and data science, and that will only benefit us all in the community broadly. And it sounds like an amazing place to work with a lot of opportunity to work on exciting things. Really appreciate you coming on today and talking to us. Wish you all the best for you and the team at Roche. I look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
Thanks a lot, JP. Have a great rest of the day, and thank you to all the listeners.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.